Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Meeker Extreme here, Ferret Face Veil Productions, aka my business partner Aaron and Mark. So thanks for following along for the videos I put out there in 2024, from riding videos to bitching videos to whatever videos I feel like. It's a YouTube channel and it's a channel. If you want to watch it, cool. If not, skip to the next video. Maybe, you know, I'm not doing a ride video, it's a talk video. I don't know. People like different things. So 2024 for A&M Moto Toys was a pretty good year, actually. We've met our expectations in sales, our expectation in various brands. We've learned a lot of stuff with brands, good and negative. Of course, you will in any business when you're dealing with various companies. You learn which ones kind of suck and you want to stay away from them, and which ones are good and will bend over backwards for you. And those are the ones you kind of want to keep the relationships with.
Yep, for sure. Like we've worked with a lot of stuff. We've also kind of moved away from some certain things, not in its entirety, but I think our number one thing that we've kind of backed off from is rentals. Yeah. You know, and that's a sad thing to say because I know some of you guys out there have rented from us, and you know, some have rented and bought bikes from us, which is it's a great idea. It's a great way of doing that. I'm more inclined to keep doing the electric rentals because that's just, to be perfectly honest, way easier, and there's just way less regulations and other things. But yeah, rentals are hard because, well, people break stuff. That's one aspect of it. The other aspect is really truthfully keeping a rental fleet and justifying that in a market where you have seasonal. You know, we have winter, we have riding season, and so then you have a lot of bikes sitting here. So we've kind of got a pretty good cycle of we just sell off our rentals as soon as we can when it's not popular anymore. It offers a good deal for customers because you get a bike that's slightly used, and then we move a bike. So like that's been one of our biggest things.
And of course, that's when everyone always calls as soon as we get rid of bikes. Like, do you have rentals? And it's like, well, you know, and trying to schedule that for the future is hard too, because I don't know, what if a bike breaks, or what if, you know, we sell it versus keeping it? Then, you know, you become obligated to rent something that you don't even have, and somebody has it booked out in 3 months. It's like, I don't know, it becomes very hard and challenging. If you're just a rental business, it makes sense. It's easier to schedule those things and know that, okay, well, I need a bike then.
Yeah, and you really can't do conventional insurance either as a business if you do rentals. That's the next real big challenge. Colorado, because of some law changes due to Toro, has made it impossible for us to get any sort of real insurance if we do rentals. So, and we tried all kinds of back methods of moving it to a different business name and other things, and it was kind of a nightmare. It's really not worth what we were bringing in for the rentals, and then gas rentals especially, because we have to go through rider share, right, is what we're using. So rider share was good to us. We never had any problems with rider share. We initially did tons of rentals through them, but ultimately wear and tear on the bikes, maintenance on the bikes, and then how much we're actually renting them. And then gas bikes, when they sit or they're not being used for a period of time, you try to maintain them as best you can, but then you always run into, oh, that bike's got a dead battery that day, that bike's got this, and and
then you're pulling a $180 battery from your shelf, which thankfully we can get, or we have, and it's just pulling one more item. And yeah, you can write that off business and stuff, but it's just a pain in the ass.
So I applaud the rental business out there that are specific. The amount of work that goes into it is huge. I definitely can appreciate why some of the bigger like tour / ATV and side-by-side companies do what they do, but there's a lot bigger market when it comes to ATVs and side-by-sides. When it comes to dirt bikes, dude, if we don't vet customers, they just tear stuff up, man.
They tend to be newer riders too, so that's a given. They're going to drop a bike. Anyone can drop a bike. I drop bikes. Yep. Aaron drops bikes. We all drop bikes, but the thing is, we drop them a lot less because we've been riding a while. You get somebody that they claim have ridden, but they really haven't. And yeah, they have an endorsement, but they have never been on a dirt bike, but maybe they've been on a street bike. And sure enough, they drop the bike, and usually it's not a big deal. It's just plastic or whatever, but you know, it's still a hassle. It's a pain. It's just a frustration. You got those people that are honest with you and say, I dropped a bike, which is cool.
Yep.
Because you start off the return perfect, right? Because I can see the damage. I got eyes. When you don't tell me about it, it's like, yeah, okay, well, you're getting charged for everything, you know, for sure. You know, it's not even a maybe because you're trying to hide it or not think we're going to see it. So I don't know. That's pretty frustrating from a rental business standpoint, just those returns of bikes, because you don't know at the end of the day, you know, and maybe you want to leave too because it's right at the end of the day. They're always late to return.
Yep, always, almost always. That's another frustrating thing too. Is the time periods are usually 24-hour periods, which kind of make it awkward, especially with we're not open on Sundays. So if somebody's renting on a Saturday, they have to return it that same day. They almost always return it late, like 7, 8 o'clock at night, which is not fair to employees, and it's really not fair to us either because then we're just hanging around doing nothing. So. Yeah, that kind of stuff, it just wasn't worth the money that it was bringing in. I still see that there is a need for a good front range rental shop out there, so it's not something that we'll probably entirely give up.
And that's why the electrics makes a little more sense, because we sell electrics. So if you're going to rent it, you might end up buying one. So that makes a little more sense. With the gas bikes, well, we don't sell the gas bikes. So at the end of the day, it doesn't make too much sense to rent a gas bike out.
That's a big one for rentals. Was another 2024 thing was we'll move on to looking for a larger space. Not that we're moving yet, and not that this space is going to go away. It would be, in my opinion, an expansion more than us leaving this space. This space is great because of the location, and there's a decent amount of space to get stuff done and whatnot in here. We're looking to expand to bigger and better things. Ideas along the realm of warehousing type stuff and doing more internet shipping of stuff. Because where we're at right now, we don't have a big garage or the ability to manage, let's just say, large freight consistently.
Yeah, and I just researched the freight, and when you add liftgate service, because we need liftgate here because we don't have a forklift, so liftgate here, liftgate on the other end, which is also usually a home address, that starts adding up to where you're paying like $400, $500, $600 for a bike to be shipped out, which means at the end of the day, you're making maybe a couple $100 on a bike. You know, yeah, you get rid of something, but you have to also do that in volume to make that worthwhile. And then if you can start taking away the cost of liftgate service, at least on one end, it makes it mean you can make a little more money. So yeah, having a more traditional warehouse style where we could have a forklift and be able to load at least a pallet on, or unload something, that saves everyone money, even companies that ship us stuff, because then they don't need to pay for liftgate service.
Yep.
So that is a consideration when expanding the business, is to get into something that we can load and unload.
Yeah, so that'll be a big focus for our year. And then, of course, expanding pet food stuff. Some of you know or don't know maybe that we sell dog and cat food as well as treats on both sides as well. That started as just kind of a funny joke. But now we actually have a fair number of customers that are consistent, month-on-month orders with dog food stuff. So that's growing too. So we're looking at possibly half this space being more of a pet food store, and then we still have an A&M Moto toys section. Because if we're honest, the e-moto sales, they don't take up much space, and we don't really need a ton of space for that kind of stuff if people are going to come here to, say, pick up a bike, or if they need to drop off for repairs or something like that.
Especially if we move like the gas bikes out of here. We open up a whole section where we store the gas bikes, and then we can kind of have this as kind of like the section for the e-moto stuff, and then the dog food stuff on the traditional side, I guess.
Yeah, kind of an interesting hybrid. Of course, when you're a small business owner, you're looking to fill gaps where we're a little bit seasonal on sales and stuff, and everybody's got dogs and everything too, so that's a good.
And everyone's always going to buy pet food and pet supplies, no matter what the economy is. They're going to buy the stuff. That's just the nature of the beast. So that's a good stopgap for having income coming in during slow times for e-moto stuff that's more seasonal.
Yeah, the seasonal stuff's kind of wild. It's amazing how much it goes up and down. But I will say, without getting into specific numbers, being able to basically quadruple our sales from our previous year of 2023 was pretty huge. Like that was a big milestone for us. So that was, it shows that there's definitely a market for e-motos. There's definitely a market for this as the more popularity is coming up. Getting into the kids e-moto stuff, having smaller bikes, that's starting to grow more and more because parents don't want to deal with the tiny 50cc engines, and they sit for a long time because their kid doesn't want to ride, and they go back to it and they won't start because the carburetor's clogged up. Yeah, right. The electrics solve a lot of problems there, so that market's growing quite a bit. I think the issue is we've kind of found is social media stuff as well as like brand loyalty, lack thereof in some instances, to where one brand is the exact same bike as another brand, but people don't want to buy the other one because they didn't see it on social media, even though it's the exact same bike.
Exact same bike, same features, everything, and even the one that you would say is not branded is actually more of a brand in, like if you put it towards the gas bikes.
Yeah.
Just because they have an electric, people don't. I don't know.
We're trying not to piss off any brands.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to.
We're kind of beating around that bush a little bit.
But it is weird how people will be like, "Hey, I want this brand." Well, this one's the same one. And plus, I'll even give it to you for a little cheaper just to make you happy. And it's just a weird dynamic.
Yeah, and you explain it to people, which sometimes they don't understand. Like if we're like, "Hey, we can get that one, but this one is the same bike, but it has way better parts support in the United States." They don't sometimes understand what that means, and we've already had at least one frustrated customer because they had to wait, was it 2-3 weeks for a brake assembly, essentially?
Yeah, by the time you go back and forth overseas, it's frustrating on all ends. Our end, the customer's end, it's like, well, we're trying, but there's a time difference. Yep. If we can work with a company here that sells the same thing, and they're going to handle it, let's just do that because they're in the same time zone. I don't know. It is weird. And in all honesty, we're not talking about major brands here. We're not saying like, hey, that's KTM, and I know that brand. They're both unknown brands. They're both Chinese brands. It makes no sense why somebody's like, hey, that's why Aaron's talking about social media aspect. They just heard of that on social media, so they just assume that's a name brand. It really isn't.
Yeah. That'll be the next thing for 2024 is like this entire industry for e-moto stuff specifically is all social media driven. It is entirely whatever is popular from certain YouTubers and the hype that they garner around social media and how it looks cool. Like that is the only reason why customers will go out and blow 4,500 and wheelies. Yeah,
wheelies.
How good?
I'm not knocking. Everyone has a different joy in life. I don't see the big deal in the whole wheelies going around town, but I mean, I guess at one point in my life, I probably did. It's just, I don't know. At this point in my life, I'm just like, it's a wheelie. It's not that big. But a lot of people are judging these are how fast does it go? That's the number one.
Yeah.
How fast does the bike go?
That's a big one.
And it's like, I don't know. I can get in my car and do 100. I got on the sport bike and did 155. I don't know. Why do you care if it goes 60 miles an hour, 50, 60? Well, who cares?
And really, truthfully, like these things you really shouldn't be doing over 50 on for.
Yeah, because the 19-inch wheel setup is as sketchy as it is.
Oh yeah, and the brakes are another one too.
Yeah, they're all mountain bike component. Now, the new thing with the e-bikes is, well, it's moto brakes because it has dot fluid. It's a mountain bike caliper. It's the same caliper.
There's like that much material. There's like 2 millimeters of material.
Oh yeah, they're so thin. Yep. So that is kind of a thing that I wish the e-bike would fix. But when you talk to people on social media and say, well, I want them to start putting dirt bike brakes on these bikes, they're like, what? Why would we do that?
Yeah.
I don't want that. That's just more weight. They act like it's weight if you're pedaling. Well, coming from the mountain bike background where everything has to be light, it's like, you're not going to notice it.
Yeah, you really won't. And the better brakes are just safer and just better. And truthfully, you have less and easier maintenance. Doing the mountain bike brake bleeds takes easily twice as much time than for me to hook up a vacuum bleeder and bleed a standard dirt bike.
Yep.
Like, yeah, so like I hope the industry changes, and I've seen a little bit as they're starting to go to like Serpent, I'll say behind, well, kind of sort of behind us. They use a real brake line. That's awesome because it's that brake line is not going to get pinched and get cut. So that's,
no, it's braided underneath the coating.
And not to mention, it also is easy to take on and off without any sort of weirdness.
So a lot of them are going towards that. Serpent actually did that right away, which was awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
E-Ride is now finally doing that on theirs, I think.
I saw that. Yeah.
So that's cool. People are all talking about it, but it's been done by others. It's not a new thing, but it's still mountain bike calipers. So.
Yeah,
that's that.
Yeah, that's that too. So, like, you know, we're dirt bikers, so we try to meet everybody kind of halfway in the middle. But, you know, some of those components we just see could be solved by, just going to a real brake. And we've dealt with Chinese motorcycle brakes too. We'll talk about that too. So, like, GPX Moto is a perfect example of this, where we've had their FSC 250s, the 300s,
the 450.
We've had the 450. We've had a lot of GPXs in here. And they're all good bikes. I'm not going to say they're fantastic. They're more inexpensive for sure, but I would say that they're on par with like your dual sport quality of a Japanese bike. I would say that for sure.
Yeah.
And their brakes are good quality. They're no Brembos, they're no whatever, but they're also Chinese branded, but easy to get pads, and they're inexpensive, easy to bleed. Those would be perfect on the E-Motos. Yep. So, like that's one thing that I would love to see.
They work really well. I mean, but they do need bleeded when you get the bikes.
Yep.
So you have to bleed. That
weird color brake fluid.
Yeah, the weird fluid, and there's always air in it. It's hit and miss whether you have air in it, and then it will lock up. So yeah, it's just better to bleed those. But yeah, so everyone has problems, but in the end, those brakes don't cost much to manufacture. In fact, on my XR 650R, or actually, I think it was what bike was it? It was one of the bikes. I bought a copy of an XR 650R Master.
I think it was the Beta 125.
The Beta 125, yeah. I put that on to have a better brake.
That's right.
And I bought that for like $20 on eBay. It worked just fine. It was an exact knockoff. So I know what they can manufacture motorcycle brakes for, and buying those in bulk is probably like $10 each. Toss them on the bike. It's not a big deal.
Yep, that would be a good one. So just little things that we've noticed with the E-Moto stuff that would just solve some of the problems. Like we've done a lot of brake lines. We've done a lot of brake bleeds. You know, not that we don't, I guess, appreciate the labor time necessarily, but for the customer standpoint, it would save a lot of pain, I think.
And then we could truly call it a motorcycle brake setup.
Yep.
Because right now they're calling it that. It's not.
Yep.
Still not there. Getting closer.
Yeah, which that's funny to me.